Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
It's the monster from the swamps, Regis Rougarou Prograis.
Hey, what's up? This is King Carlos Molina, former IBF world champ.
This is Michael, the Bounty Hunter, 2012 Olympian and your people's champ.
This is Charlie Edwards, flyweight champion of the world.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 234 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host, Joey Coastman. The main man himself is back. He's with me once again this week for the duration of the show. That man being Mr. Hasim Jr, the cruiserweight / heavyweight prospect. Hasim, how you doing this week?
I'm good, Joey. I'm good, man. Thanks for having me again. I'm ready to rock out with the BoxHard Podcast.
For sure. The Joey and Hasim Jr. shows back on the road this week. Again, not too much really to discuss. We're kind of just gonna go over a couple of little boxing subjects just to pass up the time. Really, we're still in quarantine, and there's not any real developments in the boxing world in terms of big news and stuff like that. So we're going to fill the gaps, give you something to listen to. Of course, once again, we're going to have another guest on the show. That guest this week is another former world champion. It's going to be Lou DeVal. I believe that's going to be something like our 86th or 87th world champion on the show. So that'll be interesting. He'll be our sole guest on this week's podcast. The interview's around about 40 minutes long. So all in all, I'm expecting this podcast to last probably just under an hour, something like that. Something like I say, just to give you to listen to if you're running out of things to listen to, and podcasts, like I say, have been stopping and stuff like that during this period. We are not stopping at all. Every single week we have something for you. Right, Hasim, the great thing about this week's show is that I said to you, I'm not quite sure what we're going to discuss. What are we going to talk about? And obviously, I asked you, what can you think of? You spoke to your father, former two-time heavyweight world champion. He sent us a heap of topics, so we're going to choose a couple off of the list he sent you. It was incredibly handy. Let's start with, obviously, Hasim Sr. mentioned, should there be a requirement before turning pro to at least have 25 amateur fights? The short answer from me, I'll come to you in a sec, but the short answer from me is no. There's a lot of guys that have proven themselves in the pro ranks and gone on to achieve fantastic things without 25 amateur fights. One that springs to mind, he's a guy that I always think of with silly little trivia questions and stuff. I like to say this. Name me a guy who is a current world champion right now. He's never lost. He's unbeaten as a pro and he's unbeaten as an amateur. And everyone scratches their head saying, who could that be? David Benavidez. I mean, one of the reasons why he remained undefeated as an amateur possibly is because he only had 15 fights. What a fantastic pro he's turned out to be without, having 25 amateur fights. That's my answer in short. What are your thoughts, Hasim?
I would agree with you. I don't think that the amateur style or the amateur program is suited. Everybody's not going to be good at it. There's going to be some people who are much better pros than they are amateurs. I think, maybe 25 fights is a lot. Some people don't have the funding to even compete as an amateur for 25 fights. A lot of people get into boxing because of financial reasons. So some guys may hop into boxing just to make money. So if everybody had to have 25 fights, it would be I don't think that a lot of people, a lot of these champions who have built their records, they wouldn't have people to fight. 'Cause who's gonna go get beat up 25 times for free when they just now they could get beat up for thousands of dollars, and they don't have to have any amateur fights. But it would make it if everybody had to have 25 amateur fights, it would make it difficult to find little, cab driver, truck driver type opponents. It would make it tough to. I mean, because nowadays you can find somebody off the street and be like, hey, you want to make a quick 1500? Well, come on, all you got to do is pass the blood test, fight my guy, and you're good. I mean, you pass the blood test, pass the physical, you can be a pro fighter. So, I mean, those are the type of guys that they get on the back end. Got a lot of places in America where they basically come up with fighters like that, And it's guys that are just coming in to take their licking and cash their check. If you had to have 25 amateur fights, I think that the sport would be much, much more competitive. I think it would be much more competitive, and I think that you would see a huge amount of people who lose, like prospects who lose within their first 5 or 10 fights, as opposed to them fighting people who haven't fought before inside their first 5 or 10 fights, and building or padding that record.
Yes, an interesting point you make, and while you were talking, I was just trying to think of some other people. My mind is kind of blank at the minute, but I know there's been many great fighters that haven't had extensive amateur careers, and in some cases haven't even had an amateur career. Just one that springs to mind, friend of mine, and also a heavyweight contender, a heavyweight, probably top 10 or 15 guy, Gerald Washington. I think he only had about 8 amateur fights. Obviously, he reminds me every time we speak. I'm pretty much learning on the job, and he's turned out to be a solid heavyweight. Moving on then to the next subject that your father suggested.
Just before you move on, I want to say my father was 7-3 as an amateur. So he went on to be 2-time heavyweight champion of the world, undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. So, I mean, he did it with 10 fights. And so, I mean, anything you put your mind to, you can achieve. So, I think that, it's a good question, but I don't think you should have to have 25 fights to turn pro. It would make a lot of things complicated.
See, I think I knew that about your father, but I think it slipped my mind. I'm sure I knew that. We did a real extensive interview for a long time, a while back, myself and Hasim Jr. I'm pretty sure I knew that. But anyway, that's again a brilliant point. 7-3 as an amateur, that's just crazy. Moving on to the next point. If you unify all titles, should you get a world unification belt where you don't have to worry about getting stripped for mandatories? Interesting talking point. There's a lot of ways to look at it. I mean, obviously, if you unified all the titles and there was this kind of global recognized unification belt, I know that you'd have all the sanctioning bodies screaming, "Where's my money? Where's my sanctioning fee money?" Stuff like that. So that's one flaw there. And just I quite like the scenario now. I know that a lot of people don't like this idea, Hasim, and you may be one that doesn't, but a lot of people like the idea of one proper champion per weight. There shouldn't be 4 champions, stuff like that. I like the idea that there's 4 champions. There's just so many boxers now in boxing. There's more boxers now in boxing than there was 20, 30 years ago. And because of that, if there was just one champion, for example, instead of 4, obviously, you'd be waiting ages for mandatories and, it would just be hellacious. So in some ways, as boxing fans, we do appreciate unification fights. They're the most exciting fights that can be made. But when a guy picks up a couple of belts, we know that means we're not going to see world title fights as often at that weight. We know that means if the champion is to get injured, the whole division is waiting. You've got to think about the guys that are ranked number 1 and number 2 and number 3. They're waiting a long time. And I do appreciate the likes of Alexander Usyk, the way he picked up all the belts at cruiserweight and then just vacated them and moved on quickly and opened up the door, you know. I like who did it at Terence Crawford did it at 140, of course. He didn't hang around for long. He moved up, he vacated the belts. But, yeah, once again, my answer to that, I kind of feel like as boxing fans, we've got an opinion on who we believe is the best at each weight. But an actual belt to signify that, like I say, with the sanctioning bodies all kind of, you know, itching and scratching about, you know, it's like 25% of each of the four, they've all got their piece of that belt. I don't think it would work. And it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one, you know, because people fight to get in a position to become a mandatory. It's difficult. It's difficult. I mean, like I say, the WBC? Yeah, the WBC kind of did, or they're trying to do something like that with this, you know, the belt they gave Canelo. I forgot the name of the belt now. And Devin Haney, he's got another one, hasn't he, I think? What's that belt called again? My mind's totally blank. What is that called? That belt that you don't have any mandatories, you know? Franchise champion. That's what it's called.
Franchise champion. There you go.
So the WBC are trying to do something like that, but people are already moaning at that. And I think if all four sanctioning bodies all unanimously agreed on doing something like that, it would be a bit of a nightmare, really, Hasim. That's my opinion.
Yeah, that's the tough part, because every sanction, every body feels that they're the best. So the WBO feels like they're the best. The IBF feel like they're the best. So does the WBA, and of course the WBC. So everybody feels like they're the best. But I mean, I think that if there was a one belt, a unification belt title, to where if you're fighting for all four of the belts and you get this belt, and you get to reign and defend with this belt, somebody would have to come up with that. I don't think that's a bad idea. I think that, you know, once it gets established, everybody just has to be on the same page, you know. If this was a thing, maybe Usyk would have stayed at Usyk would have stayed at cruiserweight. Maybe Crawford would have stayed at 140 and kept competing if he didn't have to worry about, you know, all the four belts. And then so if this would work, would you no longer be the champion of you know, that weight class, or would you still be the champion and you're defending your unified title and just that belt of so let's say, for example, Usyk is fighting at cruiserweight. He has all the belts and he has this undisputed belt. So when he defends his undisputed belt, is he defending all the titles, or if he's fighting the number one rated IBF contender, is he just putting his IBF belt on the line? Now, what happens to the belt if he loses? He's not undisputed anymore, but he's the last person to have the undisputed belt. So is the belt now vacated, and then whoever unifies the division and becomes undisputed next is the champion? It's a lot of ways and a lot of things that happen in boxing where this could get tricky. But I think that if you sat down and went over the right scenarios with the right people, that this is something that could happen, but it's not likely in my opinion.
Yeah, there's obviously egos at play as well from the sanctioning bodies. And, you know, another thing that would worry me in that situation, I don't want to say that boxers have landed lucky punches and gone on to win fights, but it would just, you know, we've seen it go wrong. We've seen massive upsets. And if a unification champion or whatever was to lose to a guy that we don't really think, for example, Andy Ruiz beating Joshua, if Joshua was some kind of, you know, unified belt holder, to lose like all four of those belts in I know it can happen, but to lose that status that would come along with this imaginary belt for the moment, in a fight like that where you know, I don't know, it just doesn't really sit right with me. And what I will say, Hasim, another thing that has come in my head again while we've been discussing this, there is that quote unquote lineal title, the invisible belt that doesn't really exist, that Tyson Fury, you know, claims to hold, and rightly so for beating the man that beat the man and whatever. But is that not enough? The Ring magazine, they do their bit. That, correct me if I'm wrong, but they sort of do their bit. I feel like generally if you look down the divisions, the Ring belt holder tends to be, in my opinion anyway, the best fighter in that division most of the time. I feel like they kind of, obviously they're not giving these belts to guys that have held all 4 titles all the time, but it seems like that belt really belongs to the guy that's beaten the guy, and I'm kind of failing to separate a lineal champion here with a unified all 4 belts kind of champion. Because the way I see it, if you've won all 4 belts, you're the man. There's no disputing it. You know what I'm getting at there, kind of thing.
Yes, absolutely. And I completely agree. I think Ring Magazine has done an amazing job for the decades that they've been around. And I've watched them for decades, and I've never seen them pretty much wrongfully crown someone the champion. The Ring Magazine belt is hard to earn. There are champions that have won the most coveted title to me in the boxing public's eye, not to me myself, but in the boxing public's eye, is the WBC title. So there have been champions who won that WBC title. For example, Tony Harrison. Tony Harrison was WBC champion of the world, but he was not I don't believe he was the Ring Magazine champion. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I don't believe he was the Ring Magazine champion. And if so, there's still other examples of, like the guy we were talking about last time, Martin. I swear I'll be butchering his name, but Martin Bucoli's brother. He's the WBC World Cruiserweight champion right now, and I don't believe he's the Ring Magazine champion. So Ring Magazine does an amazing job at crowning whoever's the best in that division as the Ring Magazine champion. And if the lineal belt did exist, I would think that would be it. And that actually speaks on that title that we're talking about. The Ring Magazine title is probably the closest thing that we have to that right now, because it's not a sanctioned belt. It's a belt you have to earn, and it's a belt you absolutely have to be the man to get, or you have to beat the man. And to be the man, you have to beat the man. So, like I said, you have to be the man to get that Ring Magazine belt in any weight class.
And that kind of gives me another idea now, Hasim. I would like to go through some of the divisions. I don't want to go right down to minimum weight and light flyweight and all that kind of stuff, but if we start at heavyweight and kind of work our way down, should we go through from heavyweight, down cruiserweight, light heavyweight, and down as far as we can go, as far as our brains will allow us to, and just give our opinion of the best fighter in that division?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Let's do that. So obviously, I know you're going to say Michael Hunter being heavyweight.
Absolutely.
See, it's wrong because we're both massive members of the Michael Hunter fan club. But just to make it interesting, I'm gonna go against you. I'm gonna say Tyson Fury. Obviously,
I already beat him.
Yeah,
we already beat him.
As we say, amateurs are different.
Amateurs are different. Well, let me tell you something. When you've been, and I said this on the last podcast, when you've been outclassed, Tyson Fury knows he can't beat Michael Hunter. He knows that.
And speaking of that, Mike actually sent me a few pictures of their amateur bout as well. He sent me a few pictures the other day.
And does he look like he's in full control?
Well, put it this way: in one of the pictures, both his arms are up in the air. He's celebrating before the bell's rung. So I think that speaks for itself there. But I'm gonna be controversial. I'm gonna say Tyson Fury at heavyweight. You've got Michael Hunter. If I said Mike as well, some people might just tune out of this podcast because it'll be like the Michael Hunter podcast. But cruiserweight. Obviously, Usyk no longer there. I think you've got Gassiev that's moved up to heavyweight. So for me, I've got to say Bradis. But you may say Dorticos. Or you may say Ilunga Makabu.
No, I'm not gonna say that. I like Dodicos and I like Breedis, and I think that's the best fight at cruiserweight right now. But they got a young guy at cruiserweight who's making a lot of noise, and he looks like he wants to give these guys a run for their money. So I'm gonna say the best guy at cruiserweight right now would be Breedis, and then I'm gonna give 1B to somebody I think would do well against Dodicos. I would actually pick him to upset Dodicos, and that's Lawrence Okoli. So I would give it to Breedis, but I would say Lawrence Okoli isn't far behind him.
Wow. Yeah, because they're talking about making the Okoli and can't remember who they're trying to get him to fight. Oh man, who are they trying to get him to fight? I've completely forgot. But anyway, Glowacki. They're trying to get him to fight Glowacki, if I'm not mistaken. That for me is a tough fight for Okoli. I would favour Glowacki in that one. I'll tell you what then, Hasim, because you mentioned Lawrence Okoli as someone that you've got high hopes of coming through. I tell you what, you know this guy very well. How do you believe a fight would unfold? Should it materialise? Probably won't, but fantasy reasons. It is quarantine week again. Lawrence Okoli against Andrew Tabiti.
Okay. So we have to see how Andrew bounces back. I've known Andrew. I've grown up with Andrew. And I believe he'll bounce back like a true champion. And before his last fight, I would have said he was the best cruiserweight. But he's coming off a knockout loss. We have to see how he bounces back. And some people bounce back from knockout losses, and some people don't. But I grew up with Andrew. Obviously, we both from Las Vegas, so we have hundreds of rounds and sparring together. I would favor Andrew in that fight. If Andrew and Okoli fought, I would favor Andrew. He's definitely faster, and I believe he's the better skilled fighter. But after suffering a knockout loss like that, you're not the same fighter, and I've seen that happen. And I wish the best for Andrew, and I really, really hope that he bounces back and becomes a world champion. But like I said before, we have to see. We've yet to see how he's gonna respond when he gets hit big. I hope that he takes it on the chin and keeps rocking as a champion, especially an American champion in a division that needs light. But I would favor Andrew in that fight. But like I said before, we would have to see how his chin holds up, because some people, when they get knocked out, they never recover from it. They never let that go. And I know Andrew's already been back in the gym, and he's already been sparring with Anthony Joshua, and he's already I believe that he's put it behind him. I have faith in Andrew, but like I said, we have to see. I can have all the faith in the world in you, but you have to prove it. So once Andrew gets back under them lights and proves that this is all behind him, whatever happened in the Dodicos fight happened. And he was so close. He was so close. But he just you got to go back to the drawing board, do a little bit things different, work a little bit harder, and come a little bit stronger next time.
Yeah.
So I would favor Tabiti if they were to fight, but like I said, we have to see if his chin holds up. That's why I think that right now, in the moment, Okoli is next up in the cruiserweight division, just because he's undefeated, he's tall, he's got good power, he's got a ridiculous reach, and he's gonna be tough to beat for anybody.
Yeah, the story I like about Lawrence Okoli, obviously he was, when he was a kid, he was a little fat kid. I think people used to kind of, I'm not sure if he was bullied. I'm not sure if he was, but he was a little fat kid, probably not too little, by the way. I think he's 6'5" now. I don't imagine he was too small. But he worked in McDonald's. He, I think at one point in his life, just before he turned pro or something like that, I think it was, he had about 8 or 9 pounds in his bank account, and he's changed his life. He lost the weight, got in tremendous shape, obviously went to the Olympics.
How much money is that? I don't know how much money that is. 8 or 9 pounds worth of money. That's a lot.
8 or 9 pounds
worth of money. That's a lot over here. That's a big bag.
No. I'm saying 8 or 9 pounds. Like, that's like $11, man.
Oh no! Hell no! You're talking about 80 or 90,000.
No. He had 8 or 9 pound in his bank account. That was it. He could just about buy himself a cheeseburger at McDonald's. You know, he had nothing, and he turned his life around.
I'm glad that. I'm so glad that he bounced back, man. I love to see that.
Yeah. Like I say, went to the Olympics, turned pro, doing tremendous things now, and actually he's looking at purchasing a McDonald's himself. He wants to buy a franchise just for the joke of it. So hopefully he does that. That'll be cool. Moving down to light heavyweight. Again, this is another strange one. Hasim, because it never kind of sat right for me. Well, I suppose he did beat... I'm going off on a tangent a little bit here, but I was thinking of the Ring Magazine stuff that we said. It never really sat right with me that Adonis Stevenson hung on to that belt for such a long time, the Ring Magazine title, but then again, he did beat Chad Dawson, who was on fire. But anyway, Kovalev, definitely not for me. I think it's got to be the young blood. I say young blood, he's not super young, 35. Artur Beterbiev, though, looks to be, short and sweet on that one. I think. Go on.
I think that my pick is not going to be agreed with across the board. I think the best light heavyweight in the world is Marcus Brown. I think that he learned a valuable lesson.
I'm not sure our guest Lou DeVal will agree with that.
No, I don't think so. But I think that because I know Lou trains Badou.
Not anymore.
I know. Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know he wasn't training Badou anymore.
Yeah, no, he made his decision to split from Badou before the Jean-Pascal fight. He actually said on fight week, "This is my last fight," and then he lost, and he still did walk away. He still stuck to his word and walked away.
Okay, I didn't know that. I didn't know about that. Yeah. We'll find that out later on in the broadcast, I believe.
Yes, sir.
We'll probably hear about that.
Yeah, carry on.
Okay, but like I said, I think that Beterbiev is an amazing fighter. I think that Dimitri Bivol is a specimen at light heavyweight. But aside from what's his name, Jean-Pascal lost, I think that a lot of the times, like I said before with the Andrew Jabidi fight, we got to see how he responds. We already seen how Marcus responded. Marcus got up, he finished the fight. He to me, he's definitely a true champion, and I've been watching him. Like I said, a lot of my picks are gonna come from me seeing a body of work over a long period of time, and I've seen Marcus Brown fight since he was 17 years old. He's 29 now, so I've been watching him fight for more than 10 years. And when I watch somebody fight, I watch them fight. Marcus Brown is extreme talent, and I think that he'll prove me right when people go back and listen to this. I think that he's the best light heavyweight that's out right now.
I mean, I don't think he beats Beterbiev. I tell you who I think would give him proper work though, Hasim, and you're gonna laugh. You're gonna say, no way, Marcus will beat him easy. But I tell you what, a fight I'd like to see. Marcus Brown against Joe Smith Jr. I'd take that.
Oh, yeah, I like that because I think that Joe Smith and Jesse Hart just had a great fight.
That's right.
But, I think that I think Jesse is a smaller guy. Jesse fought at 165 in the amateurs, and Marcus fought at 178. He's bigger than Jesse. He's going to hit Joe Smith harder than Jesse hit him, and I think that
Brown?
Brown's taller than me.
Wow. So how tall? What do you reckon? He's 6'4" or something like that?
Nah, he's probably 6'3", 6'3 and a half.
Jesse's
me and Marcus
6'3",
around
I think.
Yeah, me and Jesse are the same height. Marcus is a little bit taller than us.
Okay.
So I think Jesse. I'm sorry. I think Marcus is a little over 6'3", and me and Jesse are right at that 6'3" range, or a little under 6'3".
Okay. Going down to super middle, and I'm quite unsure of where to put Canelo in here. I'm not quite sure. What weight class should we say Canelo is?
We're going to put him at 160.
160, all right. Okay, we'll put him at 160. 168 and super middleweight. So over here we have, we actually have Daniel Jacobs after his fight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. We've got obviously a few Brits in the rankings as well.
Callum Smith.
Callum Smith.
Mr. John Smith. Did he win his last fight?
Callum Smith.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's unbeaten, 27-0. Well, his last fight could have gone either way.
Did he win his last fight?
It could have gone either way.
Did he win his last fight? Yeah. I like Daniel Jacobs. I like Kyle Smith, but David Benavidez takes it for me at super middle.
Even Billy Joe Saunders in there as well, you know.
I was gonna say David and Billy Joe Saunders would be like, you know, that would decide it for me at super middle. But I really think that David Benavidez beats Billy Joe, and Billy Joe is an amazing talent. But that boy, David Benavidez, he's 23. He's on fire. He's been knocking people out left and right. He came down from 300 pounds. That man is a problem at super middleweight, and I just think he's too big and too strong for that weight class. And I think that if he stays there, he could do special things. David Benavidez with the youth on his side, maybe the speed, maybe too much power. I think that Billy Joe will really have to dig in his bag. Will really have to bring out all his skills to beat David Benavidez. I've seen David Benavidez fight in person a couple times, and that kid is special. I've never seen him go the distance. I put it like that.
A man that would have an argument if he was listening to this would be Caleb Plant, and I tell you what, he's got a good argument, good fighter.
Yeah, Caleb Plant, I've been watching him for years too, man. We went to a lot of amateur tournaments together. He's an amazing story. You know, we obviously have something in common. We both are fighting for our dead children. Our children both passed away and they're on to the next life. So Caleb Plant is one of my favorite fighters, but I want to see Caleb develop. Even though he's a world champion, I still think that he has room to develop more and become more polished, and I think he would agree with that. And I think that in the future, maybe next year or the year after, he may give David Benavidez a run for his money. But as of right now, if I had to pick who's the best at 168 pounds, I'm picking David Benavidez because I just think he can beat all the other guys. I think he has what it takes to beat all the other guys. All the way down the list. Daniel Jacobs, Callum Smith, Billy Joe, Caleb, Rocky Fielding. I mean, it's so many people that he could be tested with, and I think that he would pass all the tests.
Okay, so that's super middleweight done. By the way, I think Callum Smith on his day is one of the best fighters at 168 by a mile.
Oh yeah.
I will say it, and I've been watching Callum Smith from early on in his career. I've always said it. He's a guy. I've said it to him as well. If he's in a fight where he thinks he's going to win easy, he looks terrible. If he's in a fight where he knows that he can't cut any corners and he needs to give it his best, he seems to pull it out and he looks great. That's why if you look at his best performances, they've actually come against probably his toughest opponents as well. So I've got to be honest, his last fight, John Ryder, I love John Ryder to pieces, good friend of mine, been on the show tons of times. John Ryder, I've got to be honest, I didn't think he had a chance against Callum Smith. Too small and all the rest of it. And I reckon Callum Smith probably fought the same as me. And, it's happened before. Callum Smith has boxed journeyman and he's looked terrible. But then he has a fight against George Groves. Obviously, George Groves, he retired after the fight. That speaks for itself. But, that was a brilliant performance from Callum Smith that night. And, he's had a tricky path anyway. Right, middleweight. I think we've got to give it to Canelo, quite obviously. Oh, come on, Hasim. Oh no! I'm looking on the list. I'm trying to see. You're not going to say Demetrius Andrade.
Yes, I am.
Listen, I love
baddest
Demetrius
man in
Andrade.
boxing. That's the baddest man in boxing. I'm telling you right now, that's the baddest man in boxing. Nobody's going to beat him. I don't care what weight they fight at. Ain't nobody going to beat Demetrius Andrade. I've been watching him since I started boxing. I have to rack my brain to see a round that he clearly lost. Like, he's so competitive. He's so good that I think that he beats Canelo. I think that he beats Triple G. I think that he beats everybody all the way up to heavyweight, all the way up, all through the whole cruiserweights. I think he beats all of them. I think that Boo Boo is a special talent in boxing, and if the world never finds out, it's going to be such a shame. That is my number one pound-for-pound fighter, period, in boxing. I'm riding on him to beat Canelo, to beat Triple G in back-to-back weeks. That he's that bad. I've seen him. Obviously, I've been watching him fight for 15 years. I think that he's the baddest man on the planet with a pair of gloves right now.
If anyone has any complaints, send them in. Or
man, when I put my pound for pound list, and I had Demetrius Andrade number one, do you know how much? Oh my goodness, they wouldn't leave me alone.
Yeah.
They wouldn't leave me. People are like, he's joking, and I'm telling you, I really, truly, honestly, as a boxing purist, I really believe that. I don't think anybody can beat him, and I love a lot of these fighters, and I think so highly of a lot of these fighters. But from 154 to 200 pounds, nobody can beat Demetrius Andrade. With the 15, 20 pound weight advantage, they still wouldn't beat him.
At _Hasim Rahman Jr. if you want to send any abuse. No, I mean, listen, I'm a big fan of Demetrius Andrade. I've been a big fan of his from early on. I remember when he boxed Brian Rose from over here and smashed him to pieces. I've been a big fan of his. Obviously, he hasn't got the most exciting style, but I don't really care about that because, his style makes him so difficult to beat, and I respect that. And, he doesn't get hit. I really respect that. I'm one of them guys. Everyone said Vladimir Klitschko's too safe. I'm like, no, I don't care. This guy is fighting like that to be able to, be a boxer for longer. It's not a long sport. It's a short sport. I'm a big fan of Demetrius Andrade, but I mean, I want to see him get these fights. It's not really his own fault either. Obviously, he had promotional problems. He's gone with Eddie Hearn. It's not his fault at all that the Billy Joe Saunders fight fell out of bed 2 times or whatever. I blame Billy Joe for that. I don't think anyone else can disagree, really. I'm a big Demetrius Andrade fan, but I've got to give it to Canelo. I think he's one of the best fighters. He's probably number 2 or something on my pound for pound list.
Absolutely, Canelo's a great talent. I really feel like he's one of the best right now. If Demetrius Andrade is number 1, then Canelo would be 2 or 3. But he would probably be 3 because I'll put Terrence Crawford above Canelo. But to me, Demetrius Andrade is unbeaten. He nobody's found a way to beat him. He's my number 1. I will bet on Demetrius Andrade every time he fights. And just like Floyd, if you bet on him every time he fights, you'd be a rich man. I don't think he's going to lose. I'd be hard-pressed to find somebody that's going to beat him.
I mean, I say that Canelo's my number 1 at middleweight. I say that even though I thought Golovkin beat him the first time and I thought the second fight was a draw.
you know, I don't actually feel like in either of those fights Canelo conclusively won. Yet I still rank him above Golovkin at middleweight, which is a strange one. By the way, again, without going off on a tangent and without longing this whole thing out too long, Hasim, did you watch back any of those Canelo Golovkin fights? And if so, do you remember your scorecards?
I watched them. Yeah, you can check my Twitter at _Hasim Jr. I actually scored the first fight, and I got 113, 115 Golovkin. Okay. I gave Canelo the first 3. I gave Golovkin rounds 4 through 9. I gave Canelo 10, Golovkin 11, and Canelo 12. So I believe that was the first fight. I didn't make a note on which fight it was, but yes, that was the first fight. Yeah, that was definitely the first fight I watched. So I thought Golovkin won the first fight, and I haven't gone back and scored the second fight yet. But like anybody that's logged into my Twitter, I'm always watching fights, judging them, and I got my whole scorecard up. You can see how I score each round, and yeah, tune in. Shout out to Fight Score. Download the app.
Yeah, I know that that's an app I use as well. Yeah, great app. Right, going down to 154. This is where I feel like a lot of people would have a lot of different answers, really. But for me, I've got to give it to, because I like this division in particular because everyone fights each other and everyone has lost their O's now. The top guys really. Aside from Brian Castano, that's one there. He's a guy who hasn't lost his O. Obviously beat Errol Spence, I think, in the amateurs. But anyway, number 1 for me, Jamel Charlo.
I like Jamel. Hell of a champion, man. Come back and get his belt, and in devastating fashion. But I don't think he wins in a rematch against Lubin.
In a rematch against
against Lubin. I don't think he wins. I think Lubin wins a rematch if they ever have it. Right now, I'm gonna give it to Jamel Charlo.
No, Jamal beat. Didn't Jamal beat Lubin? No, he didn't. Did he? No.
No. Jamel knocked out Lubin in the first round.
I'm confused with J-Rock. Go on, sorry.
Yeah, he knocked out J-Rock. So I think that Jamel will come up short in a rematch against Lubin, and that's just with personalities and fight history and everything all combined. I think that I don't think that he'll beat Lubin again. But right now, in this moment, you got to give it to Jamel Charlo. I mean, he's the man in the division right now. And if he takes out the likes of Kell Brook or he takes out a Jared Hurd, that's just going to be, whew, that would just be that would be on fire. That would be on fire. I also would like to see him fight Jason Rosario, who just beat J-Rock. I would like to see him and Jamel Charlo fight. I think that there's a lot of good fights at 154, man. A lot of good fights, like you said. Pretty much everybody's already lost their O, and it's like it's such a tough battle to be at the top of the division. You got a lot of guys in this division, and I think right now Jamel Charlo stands at the top. You have to give it to him. He lost his belt. He came back. He knocked out the person that took it from him to regain the title. It's definitely a clear cut. I think Jamel at 154. But with that being said, I don't think he beats Lubin in a rematch.
Okay. I think we should cut the ranking from each division right there, because obviously the next one would be welterweight, and I can see that I can see the opinions on that one being quite interesting from us both, actually. So let's cut that one there, because the podcast has gone on a lot longer than I thought it would have. Let's finish though, Hasim, with a question that was sent in for us on Twitter. This one's from @Ricey_SUFC. He's been listening to the podcast for years and years. He is one of, if not the most loyal listener we have. He also won the competition as well last week. I did a competition if you could name all the co-hosts that we've had over the years, and I think he named every single one, which was crazy.
That's what's up.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what's up.
Obviously, Hasim, the aim is to interview 2 guys a week. So to actually host a show like me and you are doing now, I think I've had about 11 or 12 in total do that. And those are, by the way, because a few people sent them in my direct message. I've got a little list of them somewhere. In fact, let me just go back to my direct message with him because I think he named them all. He names the first person he names Hasim Jr. He names him straight away.
Oh,
there we go.
Up. Shout out.
There we go. And second, obviously, former heavyweight world title challenger Eddie Chambers, former WBO super featherweight world champion Barry Jones, heavyweight contender Michael Hunter, Umar from IFL TV, and then we've had a couple of ladies help out over the years, obviously Mimi Melendez, Miriam, B-Rock, and Sofia Di Stefano, and then obviously Diego from, I think he worked for the Boxing Voice. I think he was their UK guy, if I'm not mistaken. And obviously the infamous Ayaz Sumra. So I think that's about 11 there. I don't think I've missed anyone. But anyway, he sends in a question. Boxers not sparring in camp. You answered it already on Twitter, but let's go over it on the podcast, Hasim. Boxers not sparring in camp before big fights. A lot of people criticised Anthony Yarde for not sparring before the Kovalev fight. Now with the virus, a lot of fighters could go into fights without sparring. Do you think this will affect many fighters' performances not being able to spar? Firstly, I've got to say, I've said it before, Anthony Yarde is, especially his trainer, not so much Anthony Yarde, who, by the way, is going through incredibly tough times right now. Obviously, he lost his father to coronavirus, and then a couple days later, he lost his grandmother, so his father's mother. Within a space of a few days, just goes to show how serious this thing is.
I'm so sorry to hear that. No, the Rocking family's prayers are definitely with the Yarde family. That's a terrible thing. And with this virus going on, man, we just encourage everybody to stay home, stay indoors, and just please be healthy, be safe, be clean.
Yeah, for sure. And but like I say, Anthony Yarde, not so much Anthony Yarde, but his trainer Tunde Ajayi, a guy that has spent quite a bit of time actually in the Mayweather gym. He is a bit of a wind-up merchant. He is known for annoying people on purpose, and he gets a bit of a kick out of it. So when he says Anthony Yarde doesn't do any sparring, I think at one point he even said, "I'm Anthony Yarde's main sparring partner." That's totally just fun and games. Obviously, everyone knows Anthony Yarde definitely does spar. I'm not quite sure he does super hard sparring. I don't think he believes in having a massive war in the gym. But I've been there. I can actually say I've been. Anthony has actually invited me down to watch him spar on a couple of occasions. I think I've only been down there once though. But anyway, I've seen him spar. So sorry to put that one to bed. He does spar, and if you fell for the joke that Tunde laid out, then yeah, it's just a joke. I think didn't he come down to the Mayweather gym and do some sparring? Was it with Tabiti or someone like that?
I wouldn't know. That's not what I trained in.
Well, yeah, I think he came to the Mayweather gym and sparred someone. It was either Tabiti or Marcus Brown. I don't know. Anyway, yeah.
Probably Tabiti, because I don't think Marcus Brown does much work in the Mayweather gym.
Yeah. Okay. All right, but yeah, the question I'll throw over to you, Hasim, with the virus, obviously a lot of fighters at the minute are without sparring. Do you think this will affect many fighters' performances not being able to spar? It's a good question. What's the answer?
My answer is yes. When you have a fighter that goes into a fight, he hasn't been impacted. I mean, a punch, your body is getting adapted to being hit, to hitting people and to swinging and missing when you're in sparring. You're breathing down, you're getting all your timing down, and the way you want to throw punches and shots, and to go into a fight, into a real live fight without being hit and without really hitting somebody, it's gonna be foreign to your body, especially coming out of the quarantine. So you're coming out of the quarantine, you ain't been hit in months, you haven't sparred in months, and you can go hop right into the ring, and I think that a lot of people's bodies will feel a shock if they ain't been sparring, and then they get hit with a good shot. Maybe that shot you either wouldn't have gotten hit with, or you would have took it a little better if you would have took a shot that was probably
a little bit more the same shot, but it has 16-ounce gloves on. Sometimes you go into a fight and you get hit with the same shot that you got hit with in sparring, but it's different because there's a difference. The difference is 16-ounce gloves or 18-ounce gloves or 20-ounce gloves, whatever you may be using. And when you get in a fight, you use 8-ounce gloves or 10-ounce gloves. So there's a huge difference, and it's definitely people spar for a reason. The sparring has been around and has been used in every boxing gym for a reason. And I definitely won't be getting into a fight that's going to count on my record forever and be in the history books without sparring. That just doesn't, even if it's light sparring, I mean, it just doesn't benefit me as a fighter. I don't think that I will ever put myself in that position. I hope not. I hope that it doesn't get to that. But yeah, that isn't a good idea. And worst comes to worst, I just asked Mike to spar me. Like, come on, Mike, I need some work. I know he not gonna turn me down. My uncle Muslim, my brother Sharif, we got boxing. This is a boxing family. So as far as our team goes, we're gonna come ready regardless. And if worst comes to worst, Big Rock, come on, let's go 10 real quick, just so we can get it in. I can be ready for this. And my dad still got 10 rounds in him. I know he still got 12 rounds in. So whatever the case may be, I highly disagree with the whole no sparring. That's not cool. I would never recommend a fighter go into a fight with no sparring, or I would try my best not to do it myself.
Yeah, I think, we all need to understand that when boxing is back on properly, we're still going to have to wait a sufficient amount of time before we get the big fights. For example, Joshua Pulev, no way in the world are they going to, end the quarantine and then the fight's going to happen the next week. There's still going to probably be, I'd say, at least a 12-week camp. Not only that, but also to, to build the event again and to sell out all those tickets, because a lot of people off the back of this are now in financial difficulties themselves and won't be able to buy the tickets that they wanted to buy beforehand. So there's a lot of tangibles. I think as soon as the quarantine's over, the only boxing we're really going to get is going to be lower level guys fighting, or perhaps guys on the come up that are fighting, journeymen and stuff like that. But we won't care because we want boxing back on our TVs ASAP anyway. But
we're not going to care who fighting. We're going to be tuned in.
Exactly. But I tell you what, those guys, if there's any, undefeated prospects coming up that are, looking to get in there straight away against a journeyman, they need to be careful as well, because while they've been sitting at home, them journeymans have probably still been going to work delivering mail and stuff like that, and they might just have an edge this time, so they got to be careful too.
Right. You're absolutely right.
But anyway, that is about it. Like I say at the beginning of the show, I said this podcast would probably go on for about an hour. I was totally wrong. It seems like it's going to be about an hour and 35 minutes, something like that. Just before we both go, myself and Hasim, I'll give you a last little word to the listeners, Hasim, if you want to say something before we let you go.
I just want to say that we can't stress enough how important this quarantine is. Please stay in the house, stay safe, wash your hands, do not touch your face, and just keep away from loved ones, keep away from friends, keep away from family, keep away from everybody. Stay in your own house, mind your own business, and turn on the internet. This is the time to get control of yourself and to get to know yourself and the people that you want to be with or the people that you're with every day. This is not the time to go and be with family members, because this is an extremely dangerous thing that's going on. That's why we all on lockdown. So I just encourage people to take it serious. And as far as the boxing world, I once again want to thank everybody for their support. Please, if you want to support me, if you want to follow what I'm doing and watch my race to the world title, follow me on Twitter at _Hasim Jr. Follow me on Instagram at _JR. And like I said, just show support. Drop a comment. Drop a tweet. I follow a lot of people back. I respond. I try to respond to every tweet that I get, whether if it's just a retweet or a like or an actual response. I'm very active in the social media, I think that that's the next big thing. Just like Devin Haney just showed, he was very active in social media, and now he's completely blown up. But with like I said from the beginning, I really want to encourage everybody to be safe, because this is not a joke. And my prayers go out to all the loved ones, all the people who've lost their loved ones, and people that they care about, and people who are sick, who are fighting. And I want to say I'm glad that Travis Coffey has actually beaten the coronavirus. He's a near and dear friend to me, and I want to I can't express enough how much my prayers, my thoughts, and my heart goes out to anybody affected by this coronavirus.
Powerful words. I echo everything you've said there. Also, shout out to Travis Kaufman, a friend of the show, a good guy. Like I say, just my final message to everyone. We're all going through this. This isn't something that, just a bunch of people are going through. We're all going through this. We're all suffering. We're all, not enjoying being stuck at home all the time, stuff like that. But the importance of it is paramount. It really is. We love our loved ones, and going out to see them and stuff like that risks not only theirs but also our lives. The important message is to stay at home. Like I say, wash your hands, no touching your face. And I hope that this podcast has given you about an hour and a half or something like that of non-boredom during this time. That is the aim. If we've delivered on that, then we have succeeded. But yeah, just before we wrap up all the talking, the final thing to do is to welcome our sole guest on this week's podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBA Light-Heavyweight World Champion. It is, of course, Mr. Lou Duval. Lou, welcome to the show, my man.
Welcome. How you doing?
Very good, my friend. Very good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Battling this coronavirus,
Scary stuff.
It's scary stuff, especially, I live in the Bronx, and they're like saying bad stuff, so it doesn't sound good for New York City.
Absolutely. So, Lou, I want to ask you a typical kind of opening question, really. Where did your journey begin in boxing? What's your earliest memory of putting on a pair of gloves?
You're probably not going to believe me, but 20 years old, probably just going on 20, the first time I put on gloves.
And obviously the fantastic thing about when you eventually turn pro is that you and your sister both turned professional. I think she turned pro about 5 years after you did. Obviously you were known as Honey Boy. She was known as Honey Girl. Where did the Honey nicknames originate from?
Well, it originated from a trainer, my first trainer ever, Well, to let you understand why I put on my first pair of gloves when I was 20 is because, first of all, I was an athlete. I played sports. And I played every sport, and I was a TV guy for sports. I watched boxing, baseball, football, basketball, and I was good at every sport. But I never did boxing because I lived in Queens, and there wasn't no boxing gyms. But I got into a lot of trouble, when the crack came out, the drugs, and, I went a couple of, jail, and, went to drug rehab. And then when I came out, I went to the Bronx, and I found a gym, and that was it. That was my life. That was something that I was destined to do.
And obviously, we hear this said many times in boxing. Boxing has saved me. We hear so many people say that. Would you say boxing saved you, Lou?
Oh, it definitely did. It changed everything. My thought of thinking, my humbleness. It teaches you how to be humble. If you're a great fighter, you know what it is to be humbled. I've been humbled, and it turned me into a better person. To give you a little thought about it, I spoke to a friend from prison, right? Years later. We grew up together, and I'm talking to him, and when I got off the phone, his uncle told me, "Hey, you talk like a white boy now." So, that's the difference. Like boxing, made me a better person. Wasn't talking street, none of that. So that's what boxing did for me.
And obviously your pro journey began in January 1992. Obviously, you whizzed through your first kind of 22 fights, really. 4 years it took you to get to 22-0, 15 KOs before, of course, boxing for a world title. The date being April 20th, 1996 in North Dakota. You challenged for the WBA Light-Heavyweight world title against the then champion Virgil. 41-1 was his record going in. Of course, the one loss came to Tommy Hearns on points. You didn't win the fight, right, Lou, but you were able to push him real close. Talk me through that fight if you can.
Well, like I said, I played a lot of sports, and I was good at every sport. And boxing came the same way to me. I did my homework. I watched TV. I watched sports. I remember the time I was growing up in the projects, I seen when Virgil Hill won the title against Leslie Stewart on ABC Sports. And I wound up fighting him, but I did my homework. I knew he was a converted fighter. I knew he had no right hand. And, I knew that I was going to give him a tough fight because I knew he needed a right hand to beat me. And I felt I won the fight. I dropped him. I cut him. I knocked his mouthpiece out of his mouth. I mean, he did no damage to me. I did all the damage. I fought him in his hometown in North Dakota. I felt I won the fight.
Obviously, you felt you won the fight. Like I say, it was extremely, extremely close. Would you say, Lou, that, taking the loss mentally perhaps, did that make you in any way? Did that make you tougher in any way to go on from that?
No, actually, it I'm sorry to say it brought me down because, like I said, I thought I won, and but since I was 2-0 as a pro, I knew I was going to be a champion. I fought one of the toughest guys. We both was undefeated, and after that fight, I knew that I was world championship material. You know what I'm saying? It's like that took me to the next level because in the third round, going into the fourth, I was on the stool saying to myself, oh, my God, how am I going to finish this fight? And when I went back out, the other guy didn't have nothing either. He threw a punch that it felt like a little baby slap, and then I just wound up beating him up. But that's when I knew I was going to be champ. So my confidence level was really high there. And I sparred with a lot of great fighters that brought me there. Sparring is what made me champion.
Again, getting back onto the title chase, obviously after this quote-unquote loss, you bounce back with 4 wins, 3 by KO before having a second run at the world title once again for the WBA belt. This time the strap was vacant, and in the opposite corner stood Eddie Smulders. You had to travel to Germany for the fight. A young Vladimir Klitschko was even on the undercard. Ultimately, you'd win the fight by...
Yeah, he made his debut, I think.
I think he had a couple fights, but he was early on in his career, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, ultimately you'd win the fight by TKO in round 8. Tell us about that night that your dreams came true.
No, I just, like I said, I was confident. I really felt that I was a way better fighter than Eddie Smulders, and I knew he had power, but I just knew I was just too smart and too fast for him.
What was it like to become a world champion? I'm sure, like I say, it was your dream from early on. You said it yourself. After about 2 fights, you felt that you were going to become a champion at some point, and obviously the Virgil Hill fight not going your way, but actually doing it, actually becoming a world champion. Did you surprise yourself in any way? It must have been amazing, obviously.
To be honest, no, it didn't, because I knew I was destined for it. I'm going to tell you another story. My first year fighting, I was into boxing very hard when I was like 20 years old. I was going on 20. It was 1989. And I went into the Golden Gloves, and when I won the Golden Gloves, I won 5 fights. And that was the happiest day of my life because I realized that I was a fighter and I was good. You understand? And my confidence level boosted after that. But Virgil Hill fight, I really believe that I did what I had to do in his hometown. And that's just how I feel, you know. To be honest with you, too, I'm a slick fighter. I never got hit so much, like with the jab, you know. And I felt I lost the fight. I was depressed because I thought I could have did more. But when I watched the fight on video, I said, man, I beat this guy. Because that was the different level I went to when I was 2-0, 22-0. You know what I'm saying? I didn't fight nobody at that level. This guy, when I fought him, he had 22 title defenses. I only had 22 fights, 1 10-rounder under my belt.
But again, like I say, you travelled to Germany. What was it like to, you know, win your world title on the road in Europe even? You know, it's something that not a lot of fighters from where you're from managed to do, you know?
Well, I knew I had to stop him because, you know, I seen fights in Europe that is so lopsided. It's incredible. And Europe wasn't, when I was fighting, Europeans were just coming on the scene. You know what I'm saying? Really strong. Like Darius Misiszewski. He's the one who beat Virgil Hill after Virgil Hill beat Henry Mask. And then after he beat Henry Mask, he beat Darius Misiszewski. So Darius had to fight me, but he gave up the belt not to fight me, which that was pretty smart of him because I thought I would have stopped him.
And obviously the same night you won your world title, I believe your sister was just having her second pro fight that same night, obviously a few thousand miles away in the States. Was that difficult for either one of you not having each other by your side, so to speak?
No, my sister's my backbone. And the reason I got my sister into boxing because we grew up in a tough neighborhood in the projects, and we was built for this stuff. So my mother, let's make a prime example. My mother never went to none of my fights. My mother used to go to all my sister's fights front row. So that'll tell you a lot right there, that my mother was confident of my sister. But we was built for this. This is what we grew up in. We grew up in a tough neighborhood, you know, mostly black people, and, you know, it was tough. Without a father, we had to learn how to fight.
And obviously your first world title defence came on July 18th at the Madison Square Garden, a unification though for your title, and also the WBC Light-Heavyweight world title. Your opponent, Roy Jones Jr., sadly you'd go on to lose the fight on points, but you became the first man to knock Jones Jr. down. A brilliant 1-2, by the way. I saw it again yesterday. Just talk us through that fight there, because again, a brilliant fight.
Once again, you know, not to make no excuses and all that, but when I fought Roy Jones, they told me at the last minute, they offered me $450,000. I said, no, you crazy. And that was a law. They was giving me a lot of time to get ready for the fight. But I turned the money down. Then they offered me $850. But they offered me $850 maybe a month, 3 weeks later. You know what I'm saying? So I probably had a month and 1 week to get ready for that fight. And I didn't get to train properly the way I wanted to. And remember, I didn't fight for 301 days. And my first defense was supposed to be in Madison Square Garden on the undercard of Holyfield Akawanda. And that whole show got canceled. And that's why I took the Roy Jones fight the last minute. I couldn't turn down that money.
So, Lou, do you ever look back at that opportunity that you obviously said yes to? Do you look back now and kind of kick yourself? Is it a regret of yours taking the fight or not?
No. I don't have no regrets. Like I said, where I came from, and, you know, like I'm telling you now, winning the Golden Gloves was the happiest day of my life because I felt like I was somebody. I was a street kid. I was on drugs. I got my life changed around. So that was accomplishment for me. I'm a fighter. I won the Golden Gloves in New York City. I won 5 fights to win the fight. If I lost one, I would be out. That was my greatest achievement. And after that, I just went on from there. How can you stop after winning the Golden Gloves?
especially in a place like New York, not the easiest place to win a Golden Gloves.
Exactly.
Obviously. Yeah,
exactly.
For sure. Again, after this fight, you bounced back with 4 wins before fighting again for that WBA world title. By this time, Roy Jones had been elevated to super champion. You boxed for the vacant title against Bruno Gerard in his backyard in France. The fight would end in a split draw. I'm sure you felt like you did enough, though, that night again, Lou.
Yeah, once again, just hometown decision. I mean, when you talk about boxing, you talk about, if you're talking amateurs, you're talking about being busy. If you're talking about pro, you're talking about punches that mean something. Punches that do damage. I mean, if you watch the fight, the guy didn't hit me with nothing. He couldn't hurt me. He didn't do nothing. I must have hurt him a couple of times. He waited for 5 rounds to fight. I mean, listen, Stevie Wonder saw that fight. He would have knew that I won the fight, even not seeing. God knows I won that fight, especially to get a draw.
And obviously, Bruno Gerard, a very fortunate man. In his next fight, he got another opportunity at the title, which of course remained vacant because of the split draw. He boxed for the title, he won it. He then successfully defended it 1 time, and that's when the rematch between you both took place. Once again, you found yourself back in France. This time the fight would once again be super close, but this time he carved out a split decision victory. Again, was it 2 strikes of luck on his part there, Lou?
Well, like I said, you got to understand circumstances. Once again, I go back to my childhood and growing up, and I wasn't educated. I signed with a guy. This guy, did a lot of dirty stuff to me. He never did purse bids. You know what a purse bid is? He's my manager, and my promoters never did a purse bid. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, my manager is supposed to be for my best interests, and that's what happened. Like with the Roy Jones, I really made $1.2 million for that fight. I found out by his partner he stole $400,000 from him and the promoter. My point is that I should have been a 3-time, 4-time world champion if I had the right people by it. Right, if I was fighting now, I'll be 3-time world champion.
Yeah, I mean these managers, Lou. I mean it's an old town in boxing. Obviously, there's been so many managers and stuff like that over the years that that have really been in the game for their best interests and not of the interests of the fighter that they supposedly represent. Do you feel like those types of managers? Do you feel like they're kind of harder to, in this day and age? Do you feel like they're, what's the word I'm looking for here? Like there's less of them now because of the spotlight, because of the cameras that would be in their face if something like this were to get out.
Exactly, you hit it right on the head. It's more revealing now. Like these kids are more smarter. We have technology. We have phones. When I was fighting, and when I was a sparring partner in France, I was a sparring partner. They had cell phones. We didn't have cell phones in the United States. When I went to Germany to spar with Rocky Graziano, I don't know what his name. I don't know how to say his name. He's supposed to fight. I think it's Darius Misiszewski, and they had cell phones. Everybody had cell phones. We didn't have cell phones. I was wondering what was going on with the United States. Like, I thought we were the powerhouses. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So my point is, I didn't have that knowledge to, about purse bids. You know how I learned? Don King told me about a purse bid. Don King, because I was taking my promoter / first he was my manager, then he became my promoter. And that was during the times when I was fighting Bruno Gerard. He was my promoter. Like I said, this is the reason. When I believe in somebody and I trust somebody, I trust them. The first day he became a manager was the first day that I turned pro. We both went to the boxing commission. He had to pass the test, and then he signed. He passed the test. He gave me a $5,000 check, and I signed with him. And he became my professional manager. And I was his first fighter. So now he has Star Boxing.
Okay. After that fight, Lou, you remained pro for another 7 years. You boxed 9 times, racking up 5 wins, 3 losses, and a draw before retiring in 2009. I want to ask, there was a time where both you and your sister boxed on the same card. It only happened just one time in your careers. What was that like? Obviously, you both got wins in New York. Would it have been better for yourself? Would you have liked to, box on the same cards more with your sister, or perhaps not?
Well, it was a different time for us, and my sister was coming up in the game, and I was like on standby, you know what I'm saying? Listen, I would have loved it, but you got to remember now, I started in 1989. My sister, she started in 1996, a week before I had to go and fight Virgil Hill. My sister won the Golden Gloves. And my sister beat 3 Golden Gloves champs. They both went all in the same division. That was the second year of women's boxing. That was in 1995. So my sister fought in 96. And she didn't fight 3 champions, but she won that division with the 3 champions in it. I was fighting Virgil Hill the next week.
Yeah.
I flew to North Dakota the next day after she won the Golden Gloves.
Wow. That's amazing.
Let me say one more thing. You wanted to know how I got my name Honey Boy, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, my old trainer, the first guy, his name is Ulysses Jimenez. He was a well-known fighter too, a real gentleman, great guy. I kept him in my corner. Anyway, when I first came to the gym, I was cocky, He was very low-key and humble, and he was like, hey, I want to give you a taste of honey, So I'm like, what do you mean? He said, I want you to spar. I want you to get a taste of honey. I'm like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Boy, I found out the hard way what a taste of honey was. You know what I'm saying? I got hit. I was just hitting people when they go down. But with gloves on, you're still getting hit. So I got a taste of that honey. So after a while, we've been together for so long, and fighters used to come in like me, and said they had this experience or they was this good. He used to say, Lewis. He was kind of like punch drunk. And he would say, Lewis, I want you to give him a taste of honey. So that's what I started doing. I was giving people a taste of honey. So that's why I made my name Honey Boy. And my sister, she looks up to me. She calls herself Honey Girl.
That's an amazing story, because there's so many nicknames in boxing. It's not just this day and age, but it's been a thing forever, really. There's been these crazy nicknames with no real meaning behind them. That's a really cool backstory to your nickname there.
Yeah, it's a true story. It's a true story.
That's amazing, man. That's amazing. Obviously, like I say, you finally boxed in 2009. After retiring, Lou, how soon did you start training people?
I've been training people. You got to remember, when I signed with my manager, right, when I was 1-0, no, matter of fact, I moved into he opened up a new gym. He opened up a new gym, and he got me he made me an apartment downstairs. And I lived there. So sometimes I see some kids, I help them out, and I literally, from 3-0 to 22-0, I lived in the boxing gym.
Wow.
So that's what made me, I had made champions. I made a Golden Gloves champion who wound up winning 6 Golden Gloves. His name is Glenn Gandhi. He won his first Golden Gloves with me. I was 10-0 as a pro. I made another kid a champion in the Golden Gloves, and that was my stitch. Honestly, I'm a better trainer than fighter. I can teach. Like I said, I watch TV. I watch the breakdown. I see strategy. That's how I've been in every sport. I accelerated. I went to an all-black school to play basketball in North Carolina. My sister went to Alabama University. So we have a lot of experience in sports and competing. So we did that. Baseball, my sister was on my baseball team, and she was a pitcher. So my sister started boxing at 26, 27 years old, and she won 4 belts in 3 weight divisions. She won the Golden Gloves twice, Remember those 3 girls I told you was in the same weight division?
Yeah.
The next year they left the division. And then she only had to fight 1 fight. She destroyed the girl. And then my sister won the first nationals ever in 1997. The first women's nationals ever. My sister won it. So she had to go on to her own career. So she went back to Florida. She found a trainer and a conditioning coach. And, you know, she ran on with her career and I ran with mine. When she had big fights, I went to them. When I had big fights, she came to them. So that was basically what it was.
Obviously, you know, as you trained more people, obviously, you know, the link up came with Badou Jack. That's a big one. Obviously, I'm guessing one of your greatest training achievements has to have been the night you guided Badou to the WBA Light-Heavyweight title, your old belt. What was that like? Because that's just something that, you know, is so rare. It's probably never been done before. If it has been, it's been done once or twice.
No. Once again, my best night was when my sister won the Golden Glove. And she had 3 champions in the division, which I thought she had no chance with the girl who she fought in the finals. I thought she was going to get killed. And my sister, that was the greatest moment.
That's amazing, man. You're a proud brother,
yeah, no, I'm just honest. Those were moments that, like, with Badou, we have a lot of history a lot of people don't know. When he came from Sweden, Shannon Briggs recognized Badou in Sweden. He brought him down to Florida while I was training fighters. You know what I'm saying? I was training fighters in Florida, and I was part of a team, like with guys who had money, and he brought some Dominican fighters. He got some Cuban. He signed a lot of fighters. So I met Badou. We lived in the same house. I cooked for him, and he was 2-0 as a pro. And I trained 2 Dominicans, too. They became world champs, too, those guys. But my point is that the company went down, and me and Badou were stuck in the house. And he had nowhere to go. He didn't want to go back to Sweden, so he signed with somebody, and they recommended him. The manager told him to go to Vegas and go with Eddie Mustafa. He told me he wanted me to come with him, and I'm like, I can't come with you. You just 2-0. I'm not going to be able to make no money. So, you know, I went back to the Bronx, started training fighters. You know, that's what I do. You know, that's how I make my living. And Badou invited me to the fight. He started doing good, kept in touch with me. And my fighter was fighting in the Barclays Center for the Golden Gloves Championship. They moved it from Madison Square to the Barclays. So my fighter was fighting the same night Badou was fighting, right? He was supposed to win that fight and fight a title eliminator. So he wanted me to come. The fight was upstate New York. I told him I can't make it. I'm sorry. I got my fighter fighting about. So my fighter won. I celebrated. I had a couple of drinks. I forgot about Badou's fight. I went to sleep. The next day I wake up to the gym early because I got a lot of clients and fighters. When I go to the gym, one of the guys told me, "Did you see what happened to Badou?" I said, "What happened?" He said, "He got dropped. He got stopped."
Oh, man.
I said, "What?" I said, "Oh." As soon as he said that, I called him. When I called him, he said he got caught with a punch. And he said, listen, this is his exact words. He said, "Bro, please come down. I really need you. Please." And that was it. I came down.
See, that's really cool, Lou, because, you know, again, we're in, you know, this sport now that, you know, is such a business these days, especially, and a fighter coming off a loss in that fashion, a first round stoppage, that's a point where a lot of close people to that particular boxer usually just disappear. You know, that's a tough time for you to come in and start turning things around. And like I say, you know, you've got to take massive credit for what he's gone on to achieve, because it's been nothing short of absolute brilliance, really.
Yeah, I mean, I got an interview that I saved because one day again, Badou was getting interviewed by Showtime, and they asked him what was the biggest change in his career. He said my name, Lou DeVal. I didn't see it. I was asleep already. And then the guy was like trying to talk some other stuff. And then he said, no, but what really was the big difference? And he said, Lou DeVal. Like he was expecting him to say something different. Like, that's what I do. I'm a teacher. I teach and I put the work in. You know, a lot of people don't teach. You don't have teachers no more. You got guys training fighters don't know what they're doing. I teach how to hurt somebody. I teach how to protect yourself. That's what I teach. I teach range. I teach your hands up. If you see me fight, if you know about me, I don't fight with my hands up. But I don't teach that. I teach fundamentals. That's what I do. I teach sharpness. That's what I teach. And I teach the way a real fighter is supposed to fight. And that's how I make fighters or make upsets. Because that's all I do. If you understand it, Ronald Gabriel in Mayweather's gym lost to a bum. He was ranked. He lost to a bum. I started training him. He won about 4 fights in a row. But he still was with Eddie Mustafa. He didn't want to get rid of him. What happened, I was putting all the work in and everything. The first fight he fought Benavides, it was a close fight.
Yeah,
we dropped him and everything.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to tell you, I took him to a world title fight.
Yeah.
It's his problem that he kept Eddie Mustafa. If he didn't keep Eddie Mustafa, trust me, it would have been a different fight.
How is Ronald, by the way? Because obviously, you know, he had that fight with Benavidez, was real close. Then they had the rematch. Since then, it kind of seems like he's disappeared. How is he? Where is he? What's he up to these days?
Okay, I keep in touch with Ronald. I like Ronald. He's a great kid. The problem happened with Ronald that he came to New York for me to train him because I wasn't going to Vegas. So he came down, I got him a place, rented out, whatever, and we was working. And he was supposed to fight on the undercard of Gervonta Davis in Baltimore. Remember when Gervonta Davis, the main event in his hometown, Baltimore. We were supposed to fight that night. He had a guy who said he was a conditioning coach. The guy wound up messing up his freaking back the day we was leaving to Baltimore, driving. So I don't know. I went back to Vegas to train Badou, and Floyd promised to put him on the other card, another card. I think Floyd is like blackballing him. You know, we got to remember, Floyd Mayweather, his cousin, his manager, he was managing Ronald. Ronald got rid of him.
Okay.
So, you know, this game is bad.
Yeah. And like I say, once again, you know, when you guided Badou to win your old belt again, what an achievement that was. But obviously the latest news concerning yourself and Badou, some people don't know this, but it was your decision to split with Badou. You made the decision before Badou's last fight against Jean Pascal. Obviously that fight, Lou, Badou was expected to win. Obviously, he didn't get the win. Did Badou losing that fight make it any harder for you to maintain your decision and walk away?
No. Once again, I'm a teacher. I'm a trainer. That's what I do for a living. When I can't do my job, you know, it happens to all the fighters. Once they get the money, the success, they forget where they come from. And I don't want to be part of that. Marcus Brown, he did not train properly. He did not listen to me. Once again, he didn't train properly for Pasquale. If he would have did what he's supposed to do, like when we started together, we would have had easy victories.
Yeah. And you know, I know you consider yourself a great trainer, a better coach than a fighter as well, you say. Badou, the latest news is he's now linked up with Jonathan Banks. Do you feel like that's a good mix? It's a bit of a strange one.
I don't know. I don't know him as a trainer. You know, I can't talk about the next man. I just know what I bring to the table. And I can tell you this. I can promise you this. When I leave a fighter, they're never the same. That's all I got to say. And that's a true story. It happened to my sister. She declined. It happened to my little brother who was 5-0 as a pro, and won the Golden Gloves twice. And you got to remember my history. Me and my sister are the first brother and sister to win ever in history to win the Golden Gloves in New York City. First brother and sister. So we made a lot of history together. And you got to remember, I have 3 siblings. I made them all Golden Gloves champs. My brother Richie, Golden Gloves champ. I won the Golden Gloves in 89. My sister won in 96, 97. My little brother won in 99 and 2000. And my brother Richie won it in 2000. So I'm the only one who lost in 90 because I got robbed against Richard Frazier, politics again. He's a police officer. He fought Roy Jones too. I fought him in the Big Garden, and they robbed me. So I'm the only one who lost in the Golden Gloves.
And
I should be undefeated.
And Lou, what are you up to now? Obviously, like I say, you didn't want to keep, going to Vegas. You want to pretty much stay, where you're meant to be. What are you up to now? Who are you training now? Any names that you want to give a mention to?
Well, it's a lot of guys. Look, listen to this. I was in Mayweather's, right? Mm-hmm. You know how many people want me to train them? You know what they say to me? They can't afford me. That's what they say. That's the joke, but it's not about that. It's about I'm not going to go. I can't go to Vegas and not be comfortable, not eat every day. See, what I'm saying, buy my stuff, and I don't want to go. If I'm going to go to Vegas, it's got to be for a purpose. Like Ladarius Miller, we already have a relationship. I've been training him. I've been working with him. I got him sharp, but the last fight he fought, he came in overweight, and I didn't come back to Vegas because he can't afford me. But the cut man, who's Floyd's cut man, told me he can't afford you. That's why. But when he gets the big fight, he's going to call me. If Ronald gets the big fight, he's going to call me. Anybody with a big fight, they know who I am now. I put my imprint in the Mayweather gym. And anywhere I go, Champ's Gym, I get offers to train other people. I had this guy named Oscar. To me, the most talented fighter that I trained, but he it's not that he can't afford me. It's just that he lives in Sweden. I live in New York. He was here for a month to train with me. And his wife was having a baby. But my point is, listen, this guy could fight. Oscar, I forgot his name. You know his last name? Well, his name is Oscar, and oh my God, this kid is talented. Blonde hair, blue eyes, and he fight like skills unbelievable. If I get 2 months with him, trust me, he'll be the best fighter that I trained from that Mayweather gym.
Wow. Well, I want to keep an eye out for him. Find out if you find out his last name, Lou. Please forward it on. That sounds interesting to me.
I'm going to send it to you. But he's like my brother. He came all the way down just for me to train him.
Oh, that's amazing.
And Ronald too. And Ronald lives in Vegas.
I want to ask you, Lou, with the things that you've achieved, obviously in your own career as a boxer and now as a trainer, you're a happy man. You sound like a happy man. Am I right in saying you're a happy man? You're happy with the way things have turned out?
I'm happy for the man I became. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy that I could have been already dead. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy to be blessed. I'm happy to have my kids, my son, my daughter, my grandkids. That's what I'm happy about. I'm a God man. I don't go to church. I'm not Catholic. I'm not Muslim. I'm not whatever. I'm just a God man. And I believe in God. And God has a destiny. And where that destiny will go, I don't know, but I believe in him. And I know that's where I just know I don't belong in Vegas right now.
Well said. Well said. And just finally, Lou, before I let you go, we've really come to the end of all the questions. I want to just give you an opportunity, though, to send out a message to anyone that may be listening, particularly in the UK, guys that don't necessarily always get to hear from you. If you've got a message to guys over here, this side of the water, that support yourself, just send a message now if you've got anything you want to say before we let you go, my man.
Well, my advice is to everybody, stay hungry, stay humble, stay disciplined, and your dreams will come true. But you got to stay hungry. That's my best words.
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, Lou, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking with you, my friend, and going over your entire career, boxing and training. God bless you, and I hope that we can catch up again in the near future, my friend.
God bless you.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 234 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Hasim Jr. has been with me for the duration of the show. A massive thank you to our sole guest on this week's show, the former WBA Light-Heavyweight World Champion, Lou DeVal. Again, a massive thank you to you, our listeners, for listening to us once again. But that's about everything from us. Remember to stay safe. Remember to wash your hands. Stay at home as often as you can. Please, if you do have the time, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend about the podcast. We shall start up a new competition again real soon, so don't miss that one, probably in the next few weeks. And like I say, we shall see you all again next week. Take care.